Let me tell you a little story about myself. During my life, I have been evolving, growing, and developing in a very rapid rate during the last 5 years of my life. I have been able to do this because I have been very focused on my own development. I have been taking as a priority personal development. I have been reading hundred, maybe thousand of books. I have been practicing every spiritual technology that I find that I think it will help me heal, become whole, become more lover, become more conscious. And it has been a pretty transforming or transformative journey for me. But with every step of growth, inevitably a little bit more of consciousness comes and you gain a little bit more awareness of your own state, of your own phenomenology. And while my consciousness has been raising and elaborating, I have been noticing something very weird. I have been noticing that parts of me, parts of my soul, parts of my purity, of my essence, has been left behind during my own journey, and those parts are essential for me. Because when we are talking about personal development, yeah, we are talking about leaving parts behind. But the real variable is which parts do you left behind? Because it's gonna be good if you left behind some addictions, if you leave behind some limiting beliefs about yourself or some immature tendencies about your psychology, and those things are good to leave behind, right? But what about things that are so essential for your own singularity, for your own being, that sometimes get hidden in the chaos or in the fog of personal development and by mistake are left behind? There's this term on war that is called the fog of war. The fog of war is when you are in a battleship and all the chaos, all the guns fire, all the bombs, all the screams, all the blood, all the chaos that surround a battlefield in war basically makes you lose sense of what is going on in the battlefield and you can take erratic decisions. And I am not a soldier. I have never been in battlefield, but I study a lot of warfare science, and this is a very common term, the fog of war. And I think that we have kind of that in personal development. We have like a fog of development. Sometimes we are growing so much that we forget about ourselves in the process. And this episode will be about that, about recovering parts of you that you may have left behind. Following with the story, continuing with the story, what parts of me I have left behind in these past 7, 6, 5 years that I have been very focused on my personal development? Well, since a kid, I had this interest on music. And I have always enjoyed a lot being able to compose music, specifically um, vocals, like the lyrics of a song. And when I was a kid, I used to compose songs every day. Also, I tried to be a rapper. I was not very successful when I was like in ninth grade, like, I don't know, maybe 15 years old or 14 years old. I tried to be a rapper. And maybe the failure of that experience made me block that part of myself, and I left that behind. And I continued with my life, and I became a psychologist. I went through the academia. I then became an orator, a podcaster, a writer, uh, a speaker, an entrepreneur, and I left behind the musician. It's gone, right? You have never heard any song of Derek Israel. You have never heard any lyrics. Why is that? Because I left that part of me behind. But during the last year, while I was doing my clinical internship in Colorado, in the prisons of Colorado, I was not very into social media, I also was not running my businesses full time. So I had a little bit of extra time to do stuff for myself. And one of the things that I started to do was writing music again. I realized that that was a part of me that was essential for my own spirit, was essential for my own character. And I was not backing off more. I was determined to recover that part of me. And that not means that I have plans to become the most famous rapper in the world. I don't care. It is just recovering myself. That is the important thing. That I am acknowledging a part of me, acknowledging an essential in me, and I'm recovering that. Another part of myself that I have been leaving behind because I had this notion that personal development is no distractions, is all in your pursue, in your effort, in your vision, in your purpose. You don't have time for anything else. That was my mindset back in the day, like 6 months ago. And another thing that I realized that I have been leaving behind, it was my passion for video games. Since a kid, I was a gamer. I spent hours and hours playing PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox, Game Boy, anything of my generation, millennial, that was used as a video game system, I will play a lot, like every day, most of the day, right? And actually, when I was in high school, I became this freak of Call of Duty. I have told this story before in my podcast. I became this freak in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, that I became one of the best players in my country because I was so obsessed and so focused and so into that I just became pretty good. But then when I started in the university, um, I forgot about it. And then when I start my personal development journey and I start reading all these ideas that you need to focus, you cannot watch television, you cannot hear music in the radio, you cannot um, play video games, you cannot hang out so much. I became very strict in what type of activities I let myself to do. And I eradicated my video games passion for a while. But then, like 2 years ago, or maybe 2 years and a half ago, a new game came out that is called Call of Duty Mobile. That is basically Call of Duty, but in your phone. And I downloaded just to see, just to check, right? And I started playing, and I soon reconnected with that part of me that loves video games. And while I was playing that video game, I asked myself, why the hell you eliminated this part of you? And my brain, that is a coach and is a psychologist, that is very directed to personal and personal development and spiritual development, really have very rapidly have the answer. And he said, you left it because that is a distraction. You have a life purpose. You you have a very important thing to do. And every time that you spend playing video games is time that you are removing from your pursuit to your own goals, to your own personal development, and to your own life purpose. But then I didn't believe I didn't believe that thought anymore. And I thought, yeah, that makes sense, but where is the fun in my life? Where is the time for recreation in my life? So I started reflecting on that, and I let myself to play the video game. And I didn't become like an addict of the game, and I didn't spend the entire day gaming. I just spent maybe 1 hour per day gaming. But then I realized that that was not compromising my personal development. That was not compromising my work, my ability to come here, to discuss these ideas with you guys, to transform people, or to help them to transform themselves. That was not compromising anything, right? That was just an idea that I have on my mind, that I need to be very disciplined and without any distraction. Even when that distraction may be something that is very interconnected in my soul. So that was a part very similar to the music part of me, to the musical part that I recover. Right. Another part of me that I have been recovering in these last few years has been the passion that I have for watching wrestling. Since I was a kid, I love a lot of wrestling in my life, specifically WWE. And then I stopped watching it because I grow, and I don't have time for wrestling anymore. But for the last 2 years, I just has been watching the show again, permitting me recover a part of me that I left behind. And now that has become a cultural thing in my family. Like one of the things that we do as a family, me, my wife, my wife, and me, my wife, and my daughter, is that we sit together on the weekends and we watch the highlights of wrestling matches. And when there's a pay-per-view, we watch it together as a family, as a whole, as a cultural thing that we do. And that is pretty beautiful. And if it was not because I literally recovered that part, I opened myself to my own self again, that thing with my family will not exist. Will not exist. So that is my story. Basically, the story is the one about leaving parts of you behind that you was not supposed to, and then realizing that and coming back and grab them and continue running forward, because it's not about coming back to your old premature self. It is coming back as a more mature self, but acknowledging that those parts are also important. And in this episode of the Mastermind podcast, I will help you exactly to do that, to recover the parts of you that are essential for your soul, my friend. And welcome to the Mastermind Podcast Challenge Season 2 with your host, Dr. Derek Israel, and it feels very good to be back in my classical studio. During this weekend, I have been traveling a lot, and I was doing the last episodes of this podcast on the go, mobile, and I like it, but I feel more structured and more focused here, right? In my place, in my own temple, in my own space. So it feels very good to be back. So here's the question for you. What parts of you have you left behind? What essential parts of your soul have you left behind? I want you to go back to your childhood and to think about what made you happy when you was a kid. Close your eyes just for a moment. Close your eyes and picture your life when you was a kid. And if this was a movie, as if was a movie, I want you to put play, like to hit play, push play, and to see yourself just doing whatever you enjoyed to do when you was a kid. Just see yourself enjoying what you used to enjoy a lot. What was that? And I want you to permit yourself to feel every emotion that comes to this brief meditation. I want you to breathe deeply during this meditation and just continue seeing or visualizing what do you used to enjoy? What made you happy when you was a kid? Good, good. Now you can open your eyes. How much of that you used to enjoy a lot when you was a kid, how much of that you are still applying today? How much of that is still part of your everyday life? And if you find that maybe it is not part of your everyday life now that you are an adult, I want you to ask you why. Why you left that part behind. And I want you in this moment to forgive yourself about this. You see, this process of healing, of recovering parts of yourself, we cannot do this violently. We cannot do this harshly. We need to do this with forgiveness, compassion, empathy, kindness, and love. Because we are trying to recovering our inner child here, guys. And our inner child is something very delicate. We cannot force this. We cannot be abrupt with this. So apply compassion to this moment. Let yourself feel love in this moment while you are meditating about your past and your present. And you maybe realize that you left those parts behind because you grow up and society tells you that growing up is leaving those parts behind. Maybe you like telling jokes when you was a kid. And that is a part of me that I also left behind. And I know that I am referring like uh, to personal experiences here. But at the end of the day, what else can I bring to the table, right? The only other things that I can bring to the table is whatever you comment, whatever you leave down into the comment, that becomes part of this piece, of this art, of this podcast. But I can only refer to my own experiences, and maybe some of clients, and I will teach you. I will tell you a story of a client of mine that I helped him to do this. But for example, I left behind the buffon or the fool or the clown in me. When I was a kid, I used to be the most funny kid ever. Like, I was the clown of the classroom. It's not a very good thing to do, but I was that. It was very natural to me to make jokes, to make people laugh. It was a very natural thing for me. And I don't know exactly when the hell I left this part behind. I don't know. In high school, I was still that. I think it was in university. Again, university for me was a place of a lot of repression for me. And don't get me wrong, it was not because professors wanted me to repress, although that also happened in other areas. But much of that, a lot of that was self imposed. It was an standard that I imposed into myself because I became very determined to become a doctor. And I mistakenly thought that becoming a doctor means, you know, not telling jokes and not making people laugh and become more serious and become more professional. And I was so contracted in my performance, right? And I was a liability. And that was something that I was not healthy for me. But since I spoke in this podcast about the archetype of the buffon, I have been opening myself, opening myself again to that part of me that is funny. And for me has been a blessing, really. This has been a blessing for me to be able to go to TikTok and to start my brand in that platform. And suddenly, that platform is right now, since yesterday, the most, the bigger platform of Derek Israel. It surpassed Facebook. That I have been working with Facebook, with my community there for 5 years, and now TikTok is bigger. My community of TikTok is bigger than Facebook. It's like, oh my gosh. And I attribute that a little bit to the fact that I expose and I reconnected with that part of me that is funny in that platform, because that platform gave me like the opportunity to do it. And now I am integrating that part, in my podcast, in my writing, in my whole life, because I understood that that was an essential part of my soul that I cannot leave behind anymore. You see, very similar to the part of me that values a lot talking about sexual development. That was a part of me that was repressed by my old university. But now that I am free, I'm finally a doctor, I have been permitting, letting myself open to the fact that sexuality is a very fundamental subject that we need to speak about. And I have been doing that openly, although there's a lot of taboos, there is a lot of stigma, there is a lot of resistance in this subject, but it needs to be done. And I am carrying that responsibility on my shoulders because that was a part of me that I left also behind. So I was being like a fragmented, partial Derek Israel instead of being a whole, total, absolute, integrated Derek Israel. And that doesn't mean that I don't have other parts that I will be picking up in my journey. This is a new technique that I will be applying forever. And now I'm teaching to you how to do it. But I have already noticed some powerful effects with this. You know, life transforming. Some people is writing me, Derek, wow, your transformation. You seem so different. Like every year you come so different. What is your secret? Well, besides a lot of yoga and meditation on change that I teach you guys how to do this, right? Besides that, has been picking and grabbing and recovering myself. The parts of me that were not destined to be left behind. And I want you to do the same. I encourage you to start this journey to yourself, to your home. It is not about going anywhere rather than your own home, your temple, what makes you you, your perfect singularity, your perfect wisdom, your perfect connection. This will be life transforming. If you can actualize this truth in your life, you will be forever proud of yourself. So I had this client, and I think that I have um, told this story before in this podcast. I don't know. I don't really know. But anyways, I will do it again. I have this client. He was in prison due to horrendous crimes, and he was in prison forever. He's not getting out. And this guy was very depressed, almost suicidal, actively suicidal, by hunger strike. He was not eating until he dies. And I was treating him during this process, watching him get, more discompensated every day. And my whole work was, I have very definite instructions by my supervisors, by my other psychologists, of what I needed to do with this guy. What I needed to do with this guy, it was convince him to eat. Literally, that was my whole work. And after that, I could do therapy with him, right? But my first goal was to make him eat, just to interrupt his suicidal pursuit and start working from there. And in the first sessions, I tried to convince him to eat, more like a motivational interviewing. That is a technique that we use in psychology to trying to motivate people to change, right? And I was trying to motivate him, just as I do with you in the podcast, right? But it was not working. He was still not eating. And I tried to change my approach because I understood that speaking to his conscious mind, that was not going to work, because his own issues was so internal. They were so profound that speaking conscious to conscious, brain to brain, will not make a significant difference. This guy had a lot of pain related to his past, and related to his mother, and related to his childhood. He was abused in childhood sexually. So I knew that what was operating his hunger strike, his desire to die, his suicidal attempt, it was an unconscious force. I mean, it was something that he was not conscious of. And it was something that he could not talk about because he was not conscious of that. And you only can talk about what you are conscious of. If you are not conscious of that, you cannot talk about that. Right? So I talked with my supervisors and I said to them, hey, this guy, he's going to the rabbit hole. And we need to do something different. Just motivating him, just trying to make a good picture. Okay, because what was the picture that I can draw for him? I knew that this guy was not getting out of prison. This guy have almost 60 years old. His family hates him because of his crimes. He was alone. He was vulnerable to be abused by other offenders because when you are a sexual offender, when your crime is related to a sex crime, you are a target in prison. That is the law of prison. If you did a sex offense, you're probably gonna get sexual assaulted in prison. That's the reality of that world. So this guy has 60 years old almost, very vulnerable to attacks, not getting out of prison. His family didn't want anything with him. What picture I can sell him to motivate him? It was very difficult to sell a good picture. Yeah, I can say to him, in prison you have stuff to do. You can still work in your projects here. You can do workout and you can become part of a community and you can reflect about your life and you can receive therapy here with me. But yeah, yeah, okay, that is good, but that is not like the most extraordinary life, right? And I can understand why death sounds better than the other picture that I was selling. I can understand that. That doesn't mean that I am supporting his idea or supporting his decision. That just means that I can be empathetic enough to understand where he comes from. So what I decided to do was to talk to his unconscious. And we talk to the unconscious with different means, not just words. We can use words, but not just that. So I asked him, hey, what do you like to do a lot when you was a kid? Because I want him to recover parts of himself that he left behind, because I knew that if he did that, maybe the passion for life, the will to survive, the will to live, the will to continue here in existence, that will also come back to him. So I asked him, hey, what do you like it? What do you like to do when you was a child? And he said, I like building. And I said, okay, building what? And he said, well, when I was a child, I used to build a lot of houses with Legos and with another toys. And then when I became an adult, I continued building. And I used to build homes and houses for people. And that was part of my job or my work. And I always have this passion of with building. And it was good. And I was like, okay, good. But then he said, but now in prison, I cannot do this. I cannot build. I'm stuck here forever, probably. So what is the point of living? Blah, 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 blah. Right. And I said to him, but what part of that building process you can still recover, although it will not be exactly the same, although you will not be building it? What part you can actually do? And he said, I don't know. And I said, what about drawing the architecture of your buildings? Because I am not a builder, but I suppose that if you want to build a house, you need to build first uh, a design for the house, right? With the numbers, with the mathematics, with the engineering part, with the architectural part, with every piece uh, in place, and then you materialize that house in physical form. But first, you need to put it in place on paper. And I asked him, that is right or not? And he said, yeah. And I said, and do you know that you can have a notebook in your cell, right? And he said, yes. And you know that you can start drawing different kind of houses with all the details. And maybe if you are out of here one day, you can implement that. Because when I say that he's there for the rest of his life in prison, well, that is the sentence. But prisoners have these things that is called like uh it's like every maybe 5 years or every 10 years they go to a trial and their case is reassessed and they can leave prison if the judge determines that they are ready. But most of them that have this kind of undetermined long sentence, um, most of them never get out. But some of them can. So that hope of him getting out was there, but it's not too probable, right? It's not very probable, but it's there. So I was telling to him, hey, you have this probability to getting out one day. And maybe one day you will be able to build houses again. What if we start drawing those houses? Exactly as the singer or composer that is in prison, but he cannot sing, but he can capitalize that time and make, you know, more songs and write the songs. And once he's out, he can actually sing the song, right? What if we do that? And he was first, I don't know, resisting. So I persist like a couple of days with this idea. And one day he showed me a drawing of a house. And it was a very simple drawing, not too much details. He was very skinny because he at this point he had like 60 days without eating. We are talking about 60 days without eating. He was only drinking milk, and that was a good thing. But he was doing that because if he didn't drink any milk, he will be put it on fluids. Mandatory. That is a policy of um, a rule of prison, at least in the prison that I used to work, right? That they don't let you die by hunger strike. If you pass a certain time with a certain calories that you are missing, they mandatory put you on fluids, like they inject you, nutrition direct to your vein. And so he was trying to prevent that. So he was how can I say that, methodologically and systematically and deliberately drinking a little bit of milk to hack the system, to prevent that he will be put it in fluids. But at the same time, he was continuing deteriorating almost more than 60 days without anything else. So yeah, he was a smart guy. And I saw him very weak, almost dying. Literally, he was almost dying in front of me. And one day he showed me this drawing, and I said, "Oh my gosh, dude, this is great." And I tried to reinforce that, and he was like, "Yeah, I didn't do that much. That is just a little bit." But I knew this is it. This is the first part. This is the first part of his healing. He's recovering a part of himself. And then, like 2 days after that, he showed me another one. And this one was more complex. And I was, okay, talk me about this. And he was like, yeah, this was a house that I had on my mind for a couple of years, but I could not do it in real life because I was missing this material. I was missing the budget. I was missing some money. And I was, yeah, but now you have everything because you have nothing. And if you have nothing, you have everything. Now you can create like a kid. You don't need real money. You don't need a real terrain. You don't need real contractors. You don't need nothing. You only need your imagination, and you only need to put that in paper. So now you can create like a kid, like when you was a child and you was drawing the houses. And he was like, yeah, right. And he started drawing more, drawing more. And every day I came to talk to him, he have a new house and a new house. And suddenly I arrived to my work, and my supervisors were very happy. And they say, Derek, our patient finally ate. And I was like, what? Yeah, he ate the ice cream. And then he ate a pizza because it was a pizza day. Yeah, in prisons, at least in Colorado, they have pizza days. And he ate a pizza. And I was like, what? And I was, oh my gosh. And I went I went to him and I visited him in his cell. And he was saying that, hey, yeah, I end my hunger strike, and I am determined to live. And I said, what happened? Why you change? And he said, I don't know. And I said, perfect. That is exactly what I wanted. You don't need to know, but you need to change. And what I mean that you don't need to know is because I was doing art therapy with him. I was going to unconscious part of him. He doesn't need to know how he healed to heal. Because by drawing those houses, he was reconnecting with an unconscious part of himself, with a very pure part of himself that was healing the whole system afterwards. And he do not need to know that to heal. Right. And long story short, he recovered. And in the final days that I worked with him like for 7 months after that. And in the final days, it was a whole new man. He have a lot of notebooks with a lot of numbers, houses, designs. He became very healthy physically. He gained some weight. He recovered hope to his life. Even he recovered a little bit of his relationship with his family. and life for him was starting to get better. And then I left the prison, so I don't know the current state of him. But what I know is that he recovered that part of himself, and that paid a lot with good dividends. So, how actually you can recover parts of yourself? Well, the first part you already done it is meditating about what you used to enjoy when you was a little child, a kid, and that you don't do anymore. And deciding and also implementing a system. Remember, we yesterday discussed the subject of systems work better than goals. So this is not only a goal that we have of recovering parts of yourself, you need to implement a system in place to actually make this real and to actually make this tangible and concrete and solid. So once you understand what part of you left behind, the next step is doing that today and doing that for the rest of your life. Yeah. And maybe you say, Derek, I'm busy. I'm working 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day. Oh, Derek, you told me that I need to work 100 hours a day, like Elon Musk. And that, when I did the mathematics, because also you showed me how to do mathematics every time that I have an idea to mathemize reality, right? And I did the numbers, and now I need to work 14 hours per day just to get close to work 100 hours a day, as you taught me, in my life purpose, in my will, in my mission. And now you want me also to get distracted with childish games, with games that I used to play when I was a kid, with stuff that I used to enjoy when I was young. That is stupid, Derek. I will not have time. It's one of the other. Oh my gosh. I don't know if you're thinking like that, but my mind think like that. And yeah, that is exactly what I am asking you to do. That is exactly what I'm asking you to do. And when and hear this, when I say to you that you need to work 100 hours per week, like Elon Musk, those 100 hours, not every hour, but at least 50 or 60% of them must be indistinguishable of game. If your work is not play, then it's not the real work that you need to do in your life. Your work need to be very merged and very attuned with play, with your ability to play. Like, for example, this podcast. This is my work. I monetize this. I get clients with this podcast. I promote products and service with this podcast. So this is a business, right? This is a work for me. But right now, you see me working or you see me playing. You see me doing both, right? Both. Because I have been trying to merge in my own life my professional dimension with my playful dimension. And I strongly encourage you to do that. If your life purpose if your final mission do not look a lot like play, like a game, it is not realized yet. You haven't um, understood well the germ of your life purpose. Your life purpose must be a game. That's why um, the logo of my mastermind podcast, besides Toby Rabbit, is a gaming control, right? Because at the end of the day, the whole podcast and the whole life and the whole existence is ultimately a game. A game. So I want you to become pretty serious on forgetting about being serious. And I want you to become very open to come back to yourself. And I want you to leave a comment. I don't care where are you seeing this. Most platforms have a comment section or for example, in Spotify, now you can answer a question that I leave a question in every episode. Maybe you can write it there. If you are seeing this in YouTube, you can comment down below. And this comment, I want you to do it mindfully. This is a specific challenge that I want you to do mindfully. I want you to write in that comment what parts of yourself you commit to recover. And I want you to establish what is the system or the strategy or the framework or the steps that you commit to make that a real thing in your life. So that may be an example. So Derek, I understood and I realized that I left the part of me that enjoy cooking in my life. And I'm I'm going to implement the system that every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I will be cooking the dinner in my house. I will not let my husband cook. I will not let him bring McDonald's or Wendy's to our house in that day. I will be implementing the strict system that every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I will be cooking again. And I will be doing that as a devotion. I will be doing that as something that I need to recover about myself, something that I let behind because of trauma, because I grow up, or just because I changed my values. But I now realize, Derek, that I need to do that more to become whole, to become who really I am, who I really am. So you're gonna leave a comment like that with something that you will recover, maybe more than one, and what is your specific plan to do it? Because if you don't do that, guess what? You will forget this information. Your brain is a forgetting machine. That's right. Your brain, it is designed to forget 90% or more that of the things that go into your brain. And because he does that because he wants to maintain efficiency. If you remember everything, you will be overwhelmed with so much information. So do this challenge, and I will be reading you and sharing with you. So final announcement that I want to make before letting you go. I will be changing the brand of this course that I am promoting in pre-sale. That is called "Cómo ser un top influencer." But I will be changing a lot of things about this course, and that is one of the precious things about being an entrepreneur, and also to have pre-sales, is that you can change and modify the product in the course, right, to make it optimal. So a couple of changes that I will do with this course is it will be officially in English. It will have Spanish subtitles. So if you want, if you are only Spanish speaker, you will be able also to benefit from the course. Also, I will be changing the name of the course as for how to be a top content creator. That will be the new name. How to be a top content creator instead of how to be a top influencer. And I did that because I made some surveys in my social media asking for feedback about names, and people seems to enjoy more the name creator than influencer, although they are the same. um Now people are referring to influencers as creators because the word influencer had a lot of negative stigma around it. So I will be changing the name just to make the course more attractive, but it will be the same course. um so if you want to become a creator, a content creator, to lead movements on social media, if you want to produce money or to generate money with your influence, with your leadership on social media, like I'm doing every day, and another that you follow, well, maybe this is a good opportunity for you. I will be teaching you everything that you need to know from 0 to 1,000 about how you become a top content creator, a top, uh, a very effective creator that can actually give a lot of value through social media, that can actually create a community surrounding the values that you provide, and that actually can impulse change in the world while living the lifestyle of his dreams. That is basically the life of the content creators that make it. Not everyone makes it. Not everyone makes it. um I don't want to promise that if you buy this course you will become a celebrity status. um but I can guarantee that you will learn how to do it. If you can actually accomplish it or not, that is on you. Everyone needs to execute by himself, right? I can guarantee that I will teach you how to do it and what have been working for me, not only in old platforms like Facebook, right? But also in new platforms like TikTok. I have been able to lead movements, become a top content creator intergenerationally, generation after generation, platform after platforms. And I understood some principles, some secrets that I want to share with you in this course. So if you are willing to do it, just go to the link that is in the description that it says everything promoted here. You go to that link, go to the link that it says influencer or top creator, and you will reach the the information of the course, all the details or the lessons, the price, everything, and it's right now in a 50% discount because it's a pre-sale. But this will be ending very soon. So, give you the opportunity to check it out and to make a decision. Thank you.